Hello everyone, my name is Mad Radio DX UK and I want to welcome you to this tutorial video on how to flash your TEF6686 second revision to the 2.0 beta firmware. Now, just a warning, there might be a possibility you would brick or render useless your TEF6686, but the number of times I've flashed this, I haven't bricked I haven't bricked my radio, and I haven't heard of any cases of people bricking or rendering useless their TEF6686, but I have to give a warning. So what it is that I've been asked to do a tutorial video on flashing the firmware to 2.0 to the 2.0 beta, and what I've done, even though I flashed this anyway to 2.0 beta, my own radio, I've put it back to 1.21 for the purpose of this video. So let me just switch this on. All right, and it's got the 1.2. It's got the 1.21 version back again. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go to our computer now, and we're going to get the necessary files needed to flash our TEF6686. Okay, so on the software side, we need Windows 10 and a PC, of course. Now, Windows 11 will most likely work. I suppose other versions of Windows will work too. I'm not so sure about Linux users because I don't really use Linux. I'm mostly a Windows 10 user. We'll also need WinRAR installed on our PC. I'm not going to show you how to install it because WinRAR can be easily obtained, and there's instructions, very easy instructions that can be found on the internet. We'll also need to install Discord so we can join the TEF group and download the beta firmware from there. Again, I'm not going to show the installation for Discord because it's probably going to reveal my password and so on. So I'll leave that up to you. What we need next is the CH340 driver. Now, this driver, what it does is it enables serial port functionality on a USB port. Now, don't worry if you think that your USB port functionality is going to be lost forever when you install this driver. No, all it does, it just gives that extra functionality for your USB port to act like a serial port. And then the last thing we need on the software side is our TEF 2.0 beta firmware. On the hardware side, what we need is a good quality USB cable that is a Type A to Type C, the type that can be found, for example, on modern Samsung smartphones. Now, do be careful when using these type of cables, because if you use the cheap quality cables that can be found on a well-known auction website, they are known to lack the data wire inside the cable for data transfers, meaning that yes, it's only, when you connect it to your device, yes, it will charge the device, but you won't be able to do any data transfers, and therefore passing over the firmware from the computer, the PC, over to your radio, the TEF, is not going to happen. I recommend using something from, let's say, Samsung, an official Samsung product, or what I'm going to use, which is the cable that came with my Sony PlayStation console, that is used for charging the Sony controller, but can also do data transfers as well when needed. And the last thing we need is a thin screwdriver, something like a watchmaker's or glasses repair kit screwdriver, thin enough so we can access the boot mode button that's inside the earphone or headphone socket of the TEF6686, and I will show you how to access that in a moment. So I'm showing sort of like a rough location of where the boot button is on the or inside the TEF6686, which we have to access through the headphone socket. Now, like I said, a thin screwdriver is needed, and the button itself, when you use the thin screwdriver to push that button, it's very similar type of small button, like for example on some devices where you have to use a thin screwdriver to reset device, and you do that by pushing a very small button in that device. And this TEF6686, it's a similar sort of thing as well, but like I said, it's inside the TEF6686. But the good thing is we don't have to open up the TEF6686 to access the boot button. We just have to put that thin screwdriver inside the headphone socket. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is we want to download our CH340 driver, like I said, so that our USB port can also act like a serial port. So just go into Google, type in CH340 driver, press enter, and the one that I recommend to download is from this website, the Arduino website. I'll leave a link in the description below. We go in here, and then we've got a link here to download the driver. So what we'll do is we just click on that, just get rid of that. Okay, and there we are, we've downloaded the file. So once we've downloaded the file, or the WinRAR file that contains the CH340 driver, what we want to do is we want to go to our downloads folder, wherever you've downloaded the file, and we want to bring it to desktop. Okay, so we'll do that to make it much easier. Minimize the downloads window, and then I'm going to right click on desktop here, click on folder, and we're going to create a new folder. And to make it easy, I'm just going to type in CH340. There we go. All right, so next thing we want to do is we want to double click on our WinRAR file, which has the CH340 driver. We're going to select everything here except the top folder, and we're going to extract it, all the files, to the CH340 folder on our desktop, the one we just created. So there we go, it's all done. Exit the WinRAR file, double click on the CH340 folder, and there we are. Okay, so the next step we've got to do is we have to go into setup. So the next step we want to do here is we want to click on install, so we can install our CH340 driver. So we click on install. It might take a little while to do, and there we go. The drive is successfully pre-installed in advance. Okay. What I recommend you do after you install this, exit this, right, and restart your PC so the drivers can install properly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to restart my PC, and we're going to carry on the process of flashing the firmware on our TEF. So the next thing we need to do after we've downloaded the CH340 driver is we need to download the 2.0 beta firmware. So what we need to do is we need to join the TEF6686 Discord group. Now I'll leave a link in the description below of the page where you can access the TEF Discord group. So what it is, obviously you've got to have Discord installed first, and then what you do is you just click here in this banner you see here, right? Just click there, and then you're in the Discord group. I've already joined anyway, so what I'll do is I'm just going to enlarge this, and what you have to do is you have to go into, on the second left hand side tab here, list of links here, you have to go into ESP32-beta-releases. That's where you'll find the 2.0 beta firmwares. Now there is the latest firmware, which is from the 17th of August 2023, but what it is I found the RDS decoding a bit too slow for my liking. I'm going for the one that I've downloaded and I've installed, is the one from the 10th of August. That one is reportedly to have the fastest RDS decoding so far, and I'd like to thank Peter on the Skywars DX group for recommending me this version, which does work great. So what we do is we're going to download it. Just click here where it says TEF6686 ESP32 Dave beta.zip, left mouse button there. You'll get a warning, just continue to download, and it should be downloaded already. Yes, there it is. So our file, our 2.0 beta firmware file, has been downloaded. And I'm just showing you the hardware required here, which I'm going to use. It's, like I said, a thin screwdriver here, which I've obtained from this, which is a precision screwdriver and glasses repair kit. This I got from my local supermarket. You can easily get it on the internet. And this is a good quality USB cable. This is the one that came with my Sony PlayStation console. Like I said, the Type A here, which is the one that goes to your PC, and this one here, which is the Type C that goes into your TEF radio. You can also use, for example, the Samsung charging cables that are used on modern Samsung smartphones. So once we've downloaded the necessary files to flash our TEF radio to the 2.0 beta firmware, the next thing we want to do is we want to connect our TEF radio to our computer. So what we want to do is we want to get our good quality USB cable, and the Type A obviously goes into our computer, so I'm just going to connect that now. Okay, so that's connected to our computer, and the next thing is our Type C connection goes into the TEF radio. Now when we connect it in, the outer part of the TEF will light up. I don't know if you can see a light that comes on. There we go, there's a light on now. That means that our TEF is connected to our PC, and that's what we want to see. Okay, so with that, the next thing we want to do is we want to get our thin screwdriver, okay, and we want to access the boot button that's inside the headphone socket in here. Now more or less the position of the boot button inside the headphone socket is sort of like in the center, right? So what we want to do is very gently, we want to put the thin screwdriver in here, and we should feel a little click. Okay, don't know if you can hear it. All right, so that means that when you hear that click, the boot button is pressed. Now what we want to do here is we want to start this radio, switch this radio on in boot mode. Right, so with the radio off, we put in the screwdriver inside here. Okay, press that button inside to go into boot mode, and then we're going to switch the radio on. Right, and as you can see, there's nothing on the display. It's a black display. That means that the radio is in boot mode. So what we can do is we can let go of the boot button with our screwdriver, right, and we leave our radio on. Do not turn the radio off, all right, because this is absolutely necessary to flash the firmware onto our TEF radio. So now that we know that our radio is in boot mode, like I said, with the display, with no display on our screen, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go back into our computer and we're going to flash the firmware onto our TEF radio. So we're back on our PC or computer here, and what we're going to do is we're going to go into the location of where we downloaded our 2.0 beta firmware version, and what we need to do is double click on the WinRAR file of the 2.0 beta firmware, and we're going to extract the folder that's here onto our desktop. Okay, we can exit the WinRAR file, we'll exit our downloads window, and what we're going to do next is we're going to open our folder that contains the firmware files. Now the other thing you need to do next is you need to find out the port number of where your TEF radio is connected. How do you do this? No problem. What we'll do is we'll go to the bottom left, put our pointer on the bottom left screen where the Windows icon is, and we're going to type DEV, short for device manager. Okay, as you can see, it's just come out there, or you might have to type in the full thing, device manager itself, but it's there available already. We click on this, okay, click on device manager, and the next thing we need to find here is something called ports, and in brackets COM, COM and LPT. That's going to tell us the serial port number that we'll need for when we're going to flash our beta 2.0 beta firmware. Okay, so in order to find that out, you click on the arrow pointing to the right here next to where it says ports, and I know for a fact this is the one that is for the TEF radio, right? USB serial CH340 COM6, right? If you have a few of these appear, more than one, and you don't know which one it is, what I recommend is disconnecting the TEF6686, but do so where it's connected on the computer side, not on the TEF6686 radio. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to disconnect it from the USB port of my computer, right? And there you go, look, it's disappeared, right? That means it's, you know, our TEF is not connected to our computer. I'm going to connect it back, okay? So give it a moment to appear, and there we go. So I know for a fact the number that we'll need to enter to flash our firmware 2.0 firmware onto our TEF radio is going to be number 6, as in, you know, COM6 that it says here. Okay, so what we're going to do next is, well, we can exit device manager now. We know it's number 6. We click on here, the flash file, double click on that, and then it asks you to enter a COM port number. Okay, so remember what I said, it's number 6 on our device. With your cells it could be different. It could be, I don't know, number 4, number 5, 8, etc. So that's why it's very important to find out which port number your TEF is on your computer once you connected your TEF radio to your computer. So I know that it's number 6. Type in number 6. I'm going to press enter, and when you see all this, that means that the process of flashing the firmware, the 2.0 firmware, onto your TEF is happening. So give it a little while. It usually takes less than a minute for this to happen. Okay. So everything is looking good, and there we go. That's the process finished already. Once you see leaving at the bottom of the screen there, it says leaving hard resetting via RTS pin. Press any key to continue. So I'm just going to press the enter button, and that's it. The process of flashing our 2.0 firmware onto our TEF radio is complete. And now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go back to our TEF radio and see how our radio is looking now, and hopefully the 2.0 firmware is installed in it already. Okay, so once this is done, the flashing the firmware onto the TEF radio, what we can do is we can switch off the radio here, and we disconnect the USB cable going into our TEF. Okay, and what we're going to do next is we're going to switch on the radio and see what happens. There we go, 2.0 there already installed. And then what it asks you to do is to restart the tuner. So all you do is just switch off the radio and you switch it back on. There we go, 2.0 installed already. And there we are. The radio is working as normal. I'm just going to tune into a station. Hang on a second.
Do we think this is over? Game over for the Bongo family? Or
there we go. And there, look, our TEF radio is working normally. And of course, the great thing about this 2.0 firmware, let me just press this here to access the menu. Look, lots more options, lots more stuff and features to play around with on our TEF radio. Yep, and you can even get more, for example, RDS data by pressing the lower button for a little while, for about 2 seconds. And that's, this is why I really like the 2.0 beta firmware version. Gives you more RDS data, but like I said, gives you a lot more features to use, compared to the firmware 1 versions of, for the TEF 6686. So I hope that you found this tutorial helpful, and that you have successfully managed to flash the firmware of your TEF radio to the 2.0 beta version. Thank you very much for watching. Let me know in the comments how it's everything's got on with you, and if you like the 2.0 beta firmware. 73s to all, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.